Has it ever occurred to you that you can be happy right in the middle of sorrow and deep distress? Jesus in the Beatitudes, those 8 wonderful statements about the blessing of God, says it this way in Matthew 5:4. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. There's a certain blessing or a happiness that can come, or a settledness of our spirit that can come when we actually engage in mourning and grief. When we experience difficult situations and we acknowledge those, so much of that blessedness or that happiness will come when we recognize that we are in a place of mourning, when we just acknowledge that life is difficult, that we hurt, that things aren't going the way that we had hoped they would, and we begin to mourn and grieve over this. Maybe it's a loss in our life. Maybe it's some sort of experience that's been just very difficult, an overwhelming kind of experience. We've all had them. We all will have those. And there are times when we will mourn. And it starts with us acknowledging that these things are not pleasant. They're difficult. And yet Jesus says there's a blessing for those who are mourning. Because when we mourn, when we acknowledge those things, then we often pour out our grief to God. And when we pour out our grief to God, then He comes in and He begins to do a healing work in our life to strengthen us, to reassure us, to get us through those difficult patches of life. It doesn't mean that the pain is gone forever. That's for heaven. But for now, at least, we find that He gives us strength to endure the pain, to be able to overcome, and to live on the eternity side of life. So He says, those who mourn will be comforted. God Himself brings comfort to our heart, a sense of peace, as Paul describes it, a peace that passes or surpasses understanding. We can't comprehend it. We don't know where it comes from. But somehow deep inside, we know things are going to be all right. And I think that when Jesus mentions this, He especially is thinking in terms of those who mourn over their sin. Have you ever grieved over your own sinfulness, the failures of your own life, the things that you've done that are contrary to God's will? When we come to that place of grieving over our sin, then Jesus says there's comfort because we find the grace of God who forgives us and restores us and gives us strength. So if you're grieving today, if you're struggling today, Jesus has these great words about happiness. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Thanks for taking time to join me for this pastoral visit.